Okay. We good over there, Tech? Are we good? You're good. Okay. All right. Okay, it is 5:30, so I'll call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please stand for the pledge. I don't know if they might have one. You guys have one. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Give everyone just another moment to review the consent agenda items as listed in section 7. Okay, up next, we'll need a motion to approve the November 27th, 2023 regular board meeting agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
Okay, any further conversation? Hearing none, all in favor, show of hands. Okay, motion carries. Up first, presentation from Thunder Bay Junior High.
Thunder Bay rocks because the staff is amazing. Thunder Bay rocks. Thunder Bay rocks because of the fun activities. Thunder Bay rocks because the staff is supportive. Thunder Bay rocks because we get to choose our electives. Thunder Bay rocks because of the awesome teachers. Thunder Bay rocks because the principals are awesome.
Good evening and welcome to Thunder Bay Junior High. I'm Colin Riffert, one of the assistant principals. We're excited to have you here tonight so we can present some of the things that we find awesome at the junior high. And so I have one of those things that we offer at the junior high is our student team. And the three students up here are part of that student team. The student team is an awesome group that they get to come together and with the principals and meet up and give us awesome input and things that they would like to see at Thunder Bay Junior High, and they have a big voice here. So they volunteered tonight to help us out and present some things that we offer at junior high. So they'll introduce themselves and go through it.
My name is Olivia Novakuski, and I'm in 7th grade. TBJH Pride. Thunder Bay Pride is a Thunder Bay's junior high is positive behavior and excellent citizenship. Parents, staff, and community works together to provide programs and incentives through the programs following Pride programs. Pride stands for personal responsibility, respect, integrity, determination, and effort. When students demonstrate Pride behavior, they can be recognized in the following ways. Green Pride tickets. Students can earn Pride tickets for each of the 5 Pride characteristics and enter into the weekly prize drawings. Students of the week. Each week, a student 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are selected. Students are nominated by TBJH staff by demonstrating TBJH Pride. Students of the quarter. All students in Thunder Bay staff, or all Thunder Bay staff, are able to recognize students who demonstrate excellence or achievements with our Pride program. TBJH extracurriculars. Thunder Bay Junior High has many extracurricular activities that students can participate in. Students can participate in Culture Club, Drama Club, Garden Club, National Junior Honor Society, Robotics, Science Olympiad, Ski and Snowboard Club, Student Council, and TBJH Student Team, and Yearbook Club. For sports, we offer volleyball, boys basketball, boys and girls basketball, track and field, and cross country.
Hello, my name is Lucy Bookinger. I'm an 8th grade student here at Thunder Bay Junior High, and I'm here to talk to you about our electives. At Thunder Bay, students have the opportunity to participate in elective classes. Our school offers a diverse variety of classes, and there's something for everyone. Students can take band, choir, world languages, tech essentials, medical detectives, science and technology, food so fun, creative writing, lights, camera, action, physical education, health, teen life, art, woods and metals, or innovators. Students can also take a German, Spanish, or French class to earn high school credits once they enter 8th grade.
Hello, my name is Claire Capeless, and I'm going to be talking about National Junior Honor Society. The TBJH chapter of the National Junior Honor Society is duly chartered and affiliated with the national organization. Membership is open to those students who meet the required standards in 4 areas of evaluation: scholarship, leadership, service, and character. Only 8th grade students are eligible for membership and are selected at the conclusion of their 7th grade year. They must have a cumulative grade point average of 3.5 or better. Once selected, National Junior Honor Society members will have leadership opportunities. There are 5 positions available: president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and historian. I'm actually the current president, and it has so far been a really great experience.
Honor Roll. Students in Honor Roll have a 3.0 GPA. We celebrate our Honor Roll students with an ice cream social that is hosted by our PAC. Our PAC provides the ice cream, and parents and staff volunteer. This quarter, we had 461 students on the Honor Roll.
Thank you. And again, thank you for being here tonight and sharing tonight with us. Again, thank you to the board, Dr. Rabideau, and again, a special thanks to Olivia, Lucy, and Claire for presenting tonight. They did an outstanding job. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Up next, we have our audit presentation.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here to present the fiscal year 2022-23 audit to all of you this evening. So during an audit, an independent auditor opines on whether they believe the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. And although an audit is the highest level of an attestation of assurance you can get in one of those engagements, it is important to remember that it is not absolute assurance. And the district's financial statements are required to comply with generally accepted accounting principles, and the audit is required to be conducted by generally accepted auditing standards as well as governmental auditing standards. So just a little bit about the report design as these reports continue to get lengthy. So first you find the independent auditor's report. Following is management's discussion and analysis. Management's discussion and analysis is actually required supplementary information, which means that it is not actually part of the basic financial statements. However, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB, deems it important enough that it is required to be within this report. Following is the basic financial statements. There you have your government-wide financial statements as well as your governmental fund financial statements. So the reason that there's two sets of financial statements was GASB number 34 required this. So the government-wide financial statements are on the full accrual basis of accounting, where the fund statements are on the modified accrual basis of accounting. And within these basic financial statements, you can also find reconciliations of what the differences are. The main differences are your capital assets and also your long-term debt, which would be bond debt, pension, OPEB liabilities. Those aren't recorded on the modified accrual basis in the fund statements, whereas they are in the government-wide statements. You also have your internal service fund statements and then your notes to the financial statements. Next, you have the rest of your required supplementary information, which is going to consist of your budgetary comparison schedules as well as your required pension and OPEB schedules. Last is the other supplementary information, and this consists of your non-major governmental fund statements, your individual statements, and as well as the federal financial assistance section, also known as the single audit, which is going to consist of the report on internal controls, the uniform guidance report, your schedule of expenditures of federal awards, also known as the CFA, as well as notes to the CFA. So the first thing I'm going to go over is a letter that's actually not bound within the report, and it's titled Communication with Those Charged with Governance, which is you, the board. So I'm just going to go over a couple items in this letter that I think are important just to touch on. So management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. In addition, we did implement GASB statement number 96, which is subscription-based information technology arrangements, or SPITAs. There were not any that were material to record within the financial statements for fiscal year 22-23. However, moving forward, I believe for this next fiscal year that you're currently in, there will be some. In addition, all significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the proper period. Oftentimes, you have to make significant estimates to comply with generally accepted accounting principles. So there are estimates that are made within these financial statements. There's certain numbers that aren't estimates that you know, such as like your cash or your investments. You know and can reconcile that on any given day. And then there's numbers where you have to make assumptions and come up with a reasonable estimate, and some of those are very significant to the financial statements. Probably the most significant is the pension and OPEB liabilities. There's many assumptions that go into those, and they're also very material numbers to the financial statements. Inflation, mortality rates, cost of living, future employee wages, all of those assumptions go into those, and they're based on an actuarial valuation. I'm also pleased to say that we did not have any difficulties in performing our audit or disagreements with management. And last in the letter, there are some upcoming standards listed that may apply to the district in upcoming fiscal years. So next is the independent auditor's report, which can be found on pages 1 through 3. I am pleased to say you were issued an unmodified opinion, which is the best type of opinion you can be issued. And it means we do believe the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. And materiality is something you hear auditors refer to a lot, and it's a concept that we use, and materiality changes from audit to audit. We also make various risk and internal control assessments and then plan and perform our audit. And during that process, we gather audit evidence that we find until we have enough audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to base our opinion on, and then we can then issue our opinion. So next I have, on the next slide, I have just a very summarized statement of net position for the governmental activities, and that can be found on page 14. So I just did a comparative one just so we can kind of take a look at and see what happened between the fiscal years and why did that happen. So overall assets increased 4.1 million, with current and other assets decreasing 3 million, while capital assets increased 7.1 million. So the increase in capital assets is mainly just due to the fact that there's all the capital projects that are ongoing, and so we expect to see that significantly increase. And the current assets and other assets decreased mainly due to investments decreasing of 5.2 million. And again, that's the same reason you have that bond money sitting there and the investments to use for your capital projects. So as we see capital assets increase, we would expect to see that decrease. There was also an increase in current liabilities, and that was mainly just due to the amount of retirement payable at year end. You can see current liabilities increased about $750,000. And this year there was something that some of you may be familiar with called 147C2, which was some extra funding for the retirement stabilization. And so that would be there in current liabilities this year, and that just wouldn't have existed last year. And the most significant changes overall, you can see, have to do with your deferred outflows, your deferred inflows, and long-term liabilities. And that was really due to the pension and OPEB. We saw huge swings in that. So it's important to remember that the measurement date for those is actually always kind of running behind the fiscal year. So the measurement date is as of September 30th, 2022, with an actuarial valuation that was actually rolled forward from September of 2021. So last year, kind of across the board with school districts, you saw all of those for 6/30/2022 significantly decrease. I had a feeling that we were going to then see them for 6/30/2023 do the opposite and increase. We did see that, so I'm hoping next year we see them kind of decrease and just start to be a little bit more consistent. But still, overall, there was a positive change in net position of about 7.9 million. And on the next slide, there's the same thing, a statement of activities that's summarized in comparative. So we can just kind of take a look and see what happened there this year. So overall, both revenues and expenses increased. And that was primarily due to an increase in restricted state aid and grants and the increase in coronavirus relief federal funds that are out there that are being used. There was also a significant increase in investment earnings. You can see that increased about $1.1 million. So as we see interest rates rise and there's money sitting in investment accounts, it's earning a lot more than it had prior to 2023. Property tax revenue increased as well as we continue to see taxable values increase. So now pension and other post-employment benefits, or OPEB, as you've heard me refer to it as tonight. So as we've talked about, those are very significant numbers, and a lot of times boards are very interested in those numbers just because of their significance and materiality to the statements. So what exactly is that? So it's the Michigan Public School Employers Retirement System. That's a cost-sharing, multiple employer, statewide defined benefit public employee retirement plan, and it's also a fiduciary component unit of the state of Michigan. There's about 697 participating employers and almost 400,000 members within those plans. So pension net is approximately 61.4 million, and OPEB net is approximately 3.7 million on the statement of net position. So a lot of times I get the question, well, what can we do? Well, you're told what to contribute into those plans. So there's really nothing that you can do other than continue to pay that required statutory contribution as you have been doing. So now the governmental fund summaries. The full governmental funds can be found on pages 16 through 21. Now the general fund increased in fund balance about $2 million. The general fund was expected to have a minimal increase. The final budgeted amount was an increase of about $71,000. So it ended the year about 1.9 million above that projection. And the unassigned portion of fund balance was able to increase about 1.9 million. So an important ratio to look at to measure the general fund's health is how many days of expenditures do you have in that unassigned fund balance? And the Government Finance Officers Association recommends no less than 60 days. So at year end, you had about 89 days in that unassigned fund balance, and that actually was the exact number of days you had at the end of 2022 as well. So although you were able to increase that, you aren't much above the 60 days threshold. So it's not like you're underutilizing that fund balance. You need to have some of that fund balance, or you could run into some cash flow issues. And with rising costs, you have to increase that unassigned fund balance to be able to have the same amount of expenditures in there as you would previously. Also, over the past several years, there's been a lot of coronavirus relief funds, as you're all aware. And so you've been able to utilize some of those funds this year, this fiscal year, and the past. And eventually those funds are going to run out and they aren't going to be available to districts anymore. So it is important to also just remember that when looking at the general fund. So GASB statement number 96, subscription-based information technology arrangements. Although you didn't have any this year, I just wanted to really briefly touch on it because I do think you will next year. So page 30 does disclose some significant accounting in relation to SPIDAs. It's very similar to GASB 87 leases that was implemented last year, where you record a right-of-use subscription asset, and then you also have that correlating SPIDA liability recognized on those government-wide statements. So those would only be on the government-wide statements and not on those fund statements. Initially, that would be measured at the present value of the subscription payments expected to be made over the subscription term. Now, the report on internal controls. So internal controls for financial reporting were considered for designing and planning the audit. However, they weren't for the purpose of expressing an opinion on them. So it is important to remember we don't express an opinion on those. And there could be deficiencies in internal controls that we did not identify just due to the limited purpose that we are reviewing those internal controls for. However, I am pleased to say that we did not identify any internal controls or that would be significant deficiencies or material weaknesses, nor did we have any compliance findings or question costs. If we had identified any, we would be required to report those. The remaining single audit section, so when you expend $750,000 or more in federal funds, you're required to have a single audit performed. Pages 106 to 108 are our independent auditor's report on that. And I am pleased to say that you were also issued an unmodified opinion on your single audit, and we do believe that it complies in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements required in the compliance supplement. So with that, I just want to take a minute to thank Mary Lyon and everybody else that works in her office. They do a great job getting us everything that we need, and it's a pleasure to be able to provide services to the district. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Yes, I think it's a technical question. On page 3 in the statement of net position governmental activities, throughout the beginning of the table, if the 2023 number is less than 2022, it's listed in parentheses as a decrease, and if it's bigger, then it's listed as an increase, without the parentheses. But then at the bottom of the table, under where it lists the unrestricted funds and the total net position, that, so for example, in the unrestricted fund, 81 million in 2022 and only 70 in 2023, and it's listed as an increase. And then in total net position, it's listed, again, the 2022 number is bigger, but it's listed as an increase. I suspect that has something to do with what the parentheses mean when they're in the first and second columns and not the third. Can you tell me a little bit about how that works?
Yes, I definitely will. Yes, so what that means is that it's a deficit. So when GASB 68 and 75 came out with the pension and the OPEB, it caused pretty much most school districts across the state to go into a deficit, and they're unrestricted. So you can't have the only place you can have a deficit is your unrestricted or unassigned, like fund balance or net position. So that's why that's shown in parentheses, and that's why that was an increase, because you actually decreased that deficit in unrestricted net position.
Thank you. I'm going to try to tuck that away and remember that. If it's in the first couple columns, it's deficit. If it's in the last column, it's a decrease.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You always make that a lot more easy to understand than when we get the big packet in our workshop. And you did a great job with that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you, Mary, for all your hard work as usual, and thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks. Okay, up next is the operating millage levy.
Don't have much room here. So I'm going to talk to you about property taxes in the state of Michigan, just as a introduction to the things that are later on in the agenda. So we will review pre-proposal A, proposal A, operating millage, hold harmless districts, out of formula districts, inequities that still exist 30 years later, how taxes fund community colleges and universities, principal residence and other exemptions, and the Headley Amendment. Pre-proposal A, schools were funded with local taxes, 34 mills and 50% of the market value in a mill is 1/1000th of a dollar. 69% of school funding came from local sources, so whatever you taxed within your community is what went directly to your school district. Property taxes were 33% above the national average, and funding for schools this way did not erase the difference between the rich and poor areas. So Proposal A, Public Act 145 of 1993, lowered property taxes, which was the real reason for the reform, initiated a new 6% state property tax for schools, and this eliminated 64% of the school funding. This legislation had just 5 months to design a new funding plan. So prior to Proposal A, we did not have school taxes on property, and then the state levied a 6% for schools. The homestead was 34 mills prior to Proposal A, and then once Proposal A passed, it was 0. Non-homesteads were taxed at 34 mills, and Proposal A changed that to 18 mills. So some of the big ups, lowered property taxes, taxable values increased, but they are capped at 5%. Taxes capped at 18 mills to create an operating millage. Establish a per pupil foundation in 3 stages, $4,200 minimum, $5,000 for basic, and $6,500 for the maximum. This also created hold harmless districts. The downs was a loss of local control. Sales taxes increased by 2%. Cigarette taxes, although this isn't bad, increased by 25 cents, and this established a per pupil foundation. And You'll understand later why I have per pupil under a down. How school funding works. In order to receive the full state-determined per pupil foundation allowance amount, the state requires the district to levy 18 mills on non-homestead property. For the fiscal year, the State Department determined per pupil amount is $9,608, and this is multiplied by our student count. Taxes collected through the non-homestead operating millage are subtracted from the total amount per pupil. So we levy our 18 mills, and the amount that the state is supposed to give us based on our student count times the 9,000, the state makes up the difference between the 18 mills and that total. The state sends the balance to us through our state aid payments.
Mary, can I ask a
Yeah.
question right there? So if we're in a, say, a area where there's a lot of vacation homes, that, so that we would actually have a higher amount collected by levy and would get less from the per pupil fund, correct?
Right.
Okay.
So vacation homes are considered a second home and not a primary, so they are taxed with this 18 mills. Your primary home is not. This is the millage a school levies to maintain the basic operation of the school district. The district is expected by the state to levy 18 mills. An operating millage pays for wages and benefits for most everyone employed by the district, classroom supplies, copy paper, Chromebooks, Elmos, projectors, anything that's used in the classroom. Janitorial supplies to keep the buildings clean, maintenance supplies to keep things repaired, utilities such as natural gas, heating oil, electricity, bus transportation for the students to and from school. So there's a lot that our millage pays for. By law, Alpena Public Schools cannot levy more than 18 mills. Also by law, public schools can ask the public to approve over 18 mills as a hedge against a rollback. When a district does this, they are still only able to levy the 18 mills. This is the amount, 18 mills, the district is required to levy in order to receive the full per pupil foundation allowance. This tax is not applied to the primary residences and other exempt property. It is only levied against properties considered non-primary residence, which are essentially businesses, industrial property, and second homes located within our school district. So Proposal A also created whole harmless districts. They were held harmless and received the maximum per pupil from the state aid. These were school districts where the local taxpayers had paid more than the $6,500 I mentioned earlier prior to Proposal A. There were 52 districts labeled home harmless when Proposal A went into effect. 43 current home harmless districts, 24 hold harmless districts can levy an extra millage. So we can only levy 18 mills. These districts that were above the maximum amount when Proposal A was put into place can levy an additional millage. So they have that advantage. And that's what the hold harmless means. 4 hold harmless districts do not levy an additional millage and are so effectively capped at the target, despite having a higher statutory foundation allowance. 15 of these are also considered out of formula. So out of formula districts, 46 of the out of formula districts, and this includes the 15 hold harmless, receive local revenue that exceeds their foundation allowance. And these are the ones that are over on the west coast of Michigan, like Harbor Springs. They have multi-million-dollar homes out in Lake Michigan and collect a lot of tax revenue from that. Currently, the state foundation allowance for the minimum, basic, and maximum are all the same at $9,608. These districts are able to keep the extra revenue. So, for example, Bloomfield Hills, in 1993, their base was $10,294. In 23-24, it is $13,443, where we get $9,608. Central Lake, theirs in 1993 was $5,772, and they currently receive $11,891. So this next table is just a comparison that demonstrates 30 years later we're still not equitable. Bloomfield Hills, West Blank Island, Oneida, there's several other ones, Harper Springs, Burt Township, Central Lake, those are out of formula. You can see the differences and the current per pupil that they collect. 13,000, 16,000, 12,000, 15,000, 22,000, 11,000. These are districts that, while not necessarily our neighbors, we still have to compete with for teachers. So in Proposal A, there was always the ability to take from the school aid fund for colleges and higher education. At the time, when it first started, the state did not do that. They paid for those completely out of general fund. Well, you know how that goes. When they have the leeway to do it, they're going to do it. And they currently pull a lot of money out of the school aid fund that could be going to public schools instead of going to the universities and colleges that can charge tuition. It's a tune of $448 million. So there are exemptions to property taxes on your home. There are property exemptions for people that are in extreme poverty situations. They can apply. It's an annual renewal. The disabled veterans exemption for honorably discharged vets, they can get an exemption on their home. And then your primary residence is your actual 18 mills exemption. The other two are exemptions from the debt payments. So there's always amendments besides those. The Headley Amendment actually came before Proposal A. It is a 1978 amendment to the Michigan Constitution that prohibits taxes from increasing over the rate of inflation. This can be especially troublesome for school districts. When the taxable value increases over the rate of inflation, the district must reduce their 18 mills on non-homestead millage rates by the calculated millage reduction fraction. It's a number that I get from the state and county. It's a form that they send me every year. Alpena has lost $233,000 since the first rollback in the school year 2021 because of Headley. This is just a quick, simple math for Dave. He's always teasing me about simple math and round that figure off and stuff. So it just demonstrates what our foundation allowance would be if we chose the 18 mills. If we collected the full 18 mills, then the state would pay us the $6 million at the bottom there. And those are just my references. Any questions? Just kind of, I know it's a lot of information, but it kind of helps you understand where, you know, how things all fit together to help, you know, for our funding. I had a flyer. Leslie, did you? I do have some copies of it. Okay. So the flyer you saw at the workshop, I added some information to it. These will be available to the public to help them understand the 18 mills and how it works with the school district, and shows the loss of Headley over the past few years. But I need the board to understand that if we do not receive the funding for the 18 mills with the election, then there isn't any way to make that money up. And it's a loss of over $9 million to the school district. This is not a new tax. This is a tax that has been in place since Proposal A was put in place. It just has to be renewed by the communities after a certain number of years. So it has an expiration date on it. Any questions?
Mary, can we get a copy of the slideshow that you just did?
Sure.
Is there, I
Okay.
would like it because it's
Okay,
very informative for me. Thank you.
okay.
Thank you. Anything further for Mary? Thank you, Mary. We'll give Mary a second to clear out of there before we open up for public comment. Okay, up next, we have our first opportunity for citizens or delegations who would like to address the board. While we see if anyone comes forward, did we have any letters, Leslie? Okay, no letters. Okay, I am not seeing anyone coming forward. So we'll move on to our action items. We will have an approval for consent agenda items listed below, approval of the October 23rd regular meeting minutes, approval of the October 23rd closed session minutes, approval of the November 13, 2023 monthly workshop minutes. We'll need a motion to approve the consent agenda items as presented. Okay, we have a motion and support. Anything further? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, show of hands, please. Okay. Thank you, motion carries. Additional business requiring board action. We have received the 2023 audit and heard the presentation. Motion to receive the audit for the year ending June 30th, 2023.
So moved.
Support.
Okay. Motion on the floor. Any conversation? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, show of hands. Okay, thank you. Motion carries. All right. Up next, returning back to the annual summer tax resolution. We have a motion to accept the preamble and resolution as presented to impose a summer tax levy of 100% of annual school property taxes on property in the school district and request each city and/or township to collect the taxes. This is an annual process. Just a reminder, this is not the operating millage. This is just to have our summer taxes collected.
I so move to accept the resolution.
I'll support that.
We have Sarah and Dr. Lawson. This resolution, roll call, please. Okay. Any conversation? Okay.
Member Fritz? Support. Member Lawson?
Aye.
Member Hanson? Aye. Member Snow? Aye. Member MacArthur?
Aye.
And Member Meinhardt?
Aye. Okay, up next, you have in your packet two options for the resolution that were discussed at our workshop and also presented tonight from Mary. We'll need a motion to adopt the operating millage proposal, preamble, and resolution, either option 1 or option 2 as presented. Option 1 is for the standard 18 mills, and then the other one, correct, Mary, is the additional .5 that, just for the Headley, but would never be able to be more than 18 mills.
I move to accept the resolution, option 1.
I would support that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any conversation regarding this? Is option 1 is the standard 18 mills.
I understand what Mary's trying to get at, to try and pick up that lost revenue, but I don't think people are going to take the time to understand, and you might get kicked back and actually get a no vote on that. Just, it's a possibility, I guess. What's that, Sarah? If we do option 2 and ask for more, I mean, I understand what she's getting at, but I don't think it's
Right,
gonna
and to
fly.
clarify, it's not asking for more, but people might interpret it to be more.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah. And I realize it's not a new sell, we're not asking for new taxes, but it's taxes and people automatically hate that.
And if for some reason this did not pass in February, when would be our next opportunity?
March or May? May. There would be multiple opportunities after
But
that.
really, pretty close on the heels of this, the first election.
Yes, and then also the county's going out in the May election for their millage as well. But yeah,
That's not a lot of time to move the needle if we had to. So I guess I prefer this option of 1 as well, because I think that it's, you know, yes, we said an easier sell. Yeah.
Right. To clarify, yes, this would be for a special election to be held on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024.
and in talking with Mary, so if we do see another rollback, so we get it up to the 18, the rollback would take approximately a year before it would kick in. So there would be some time to, I don't know if we can see it coming, but certainly we would get the full benefit for that period of time, and then we can reevaluate if we need to at that point. Were you going to say something?
Do you mind, Mary, if you're going to, thank you. Sorry.
I think the most important points are, number 1, it is not on your home. And number 2, this is not a new tax. Not a new tax.
It's
Is
not
it-
new, but it's still a tax.
Yeah, but it is a tax that has been in place since 1993.
For non-homestead.
Right. And the devastation to the district would be terrible.
Okay, thank you. Any further conversation?
Actually, I just want to make sure I understood correctly. In one of those sheets, it said that a business with a, excuse me, a value of $200,000 would experience a $3,600 increase?
No.
Did I read that right?
Not an
No.
increase, just a the 18 mills would be the 3,600. It's not an increase.
For, excuse me, though, for those, not the residential, but a business.
Right.
That's still not an increase.
No. This is not a new tax at all.
Can I, excuse me, can I ask why we got to have a special election for this? Why didn't it just get slid in with a regular one?
It's not, this is the primary election.
Okay, it just says in
It's-
a special election, so I thought maybe it was just this item on the
Oh,
ballot, and I was like,
No, it's because of the dates that the legislative body dismissed, then the primary got moved from March to February.
okay, thank you.
I certainly understand that we're not asking for more.
turning your phone on? Thanks.
I'm sorry. I certainly understand that we're not asking for any more than has already been asked. I think the difference is, if we're putting this in front of the voters, they're going to look at the fact that a good portion of the population doesn't feel that the government's used their money well. And we're asking them to pay a tax plus, in order to buffer that when, you know, a bag of groceries has gone up exponentially, the cost of a car has gone up exponentially, and they're not getting any tax break as an individual. So, you know, I understand we're not asking more, but we're asking them to pay a certain percentage when they're already taking a huge cut themselves based on the expenditures that they're paying out. And so I think that asking more of a taxpayer at this point is probably not going to slide through. And that's why I think that at this rate, at least we can capture the 18. I think that's a much easier sell. We add that plus 0.5. I think it's going to scare a lot of individuals. That's just my take on it.
Thank you.
Can I ask, actually, just one more time? I feel really dense, but right now, we're only levying the 17 point something mills, right?
Right.
So there is some of that 18 mills that is not being captured or collected, correct?
Right.
When that is authorized for us to capture and collect that money, will anybody's tax bill change?
Well, yeah, it'll change by the difference between what .223 right now is the amount that Headley has reduced our levy by.
Right. So I guess my point is, it's not a new tax, but somebody's tax bill is going to change, right?
Yes.
So
but
in
it
that
is
question,
not-
let me ask that question about the business then. The business that's going to experience an increase in their tax bill, it's not a new tax, it's already been authorized, except that it hasn't been collected. Is that right?
Right.
Okay, so they could see a change in their tax bill of that amount.
It could, when you multiply their taxable value by the .223, it's, you know, you divide the taxable value by 1,000, and then you multiply it by the .223. It's a very, very small amount per business, unless they're a multi-million-dollar taxable value, like Lafarge would be or something.
But
It's a very-
because Headley, that amount reduced starting in 2021, prior to that, they would have been at that 18 mils.
Right.
So this is a return to that rate that they were paying prior to the rollback.
Right.
So any tax break that they obtained, we're essentially taking that away.
You know, I would say that wasn't a tax break, that was a rollback, you know, as opposed to a targeted tax break.
The Headley rollback has never really been addressed at the legislative level. It was like an oversight when Proposal A was passed, which is why they allow school districts to go out for an additional levy when they have a Headley rollback.
To your point, though, we do have to be very clear. You know, things like that, yes, they're going to see an increase no matter what it is. It's not a new increase, it's a return to that level before. However, people are going to see it, as we've stated. This is more money going out.
The thing to stress is that it's not on your home. So most of the voters are not business owners. They're not taxable properties that are
Yeah.
taxable under the operating millage. It is not on the home. So when you talk about tax increases with people, you need to be careful because they need to understand that this is not on their home. If our public is out there thinking that this levy is going to affect their home, we are sunk.
But if somebody is a small business owner, it will affect them.
It will.
But it won't be a lot.
But they need to know how to do the math. too.
Yeah.
And
So-
that's why, you know, I will send you guys an explanation on how to do the math, so that if you have a business owner that asks you, you can tell them. But you need to stress to people that this is not on your home.
I think that would be helpful because a lot of people, even though they may not own a business, they want to see business continue to thrive, and they don't want to see taxes. I've always said, if you ever have too much economic prosperity in your region and you want to shrink it, just raise taxes. It's a natural relief valve. People will raise taxes and people will leave, businesses will leave. But of course, we're not talking about those amounts of money. So I think I understand now on this non-homestead millage FAQ you gave us, the millage, there's a section that says, this millage will allow the district to once again levy 18 mills for a business with a taxable value of property established at $200,000. That total 18 mills is going to be $3,600 annually. So we're talking about a small fraction of that $3,600. It's going to be, I don't know, whatever that small percentage is going to be, and it's going to bump you back up to the $3,600, although you've gotten a little bit of a break. Who knows, maybe $3,400. It's just going to bump you back up a little bit. Yeah. Okay. I think that's important for us to understand too, as we try to explain this to people. What is it going to mean in real numbers? So this is not going to, cause a small business to fold because of this increase. I think that's, and I want to be able to articulate that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
So just for Dave's simple numbers,
Yes.
rough back of the envelope figures. So at $50,000 of value on a piece of property, let's say, 18 mills comes out to $900. 17.7769 comes to $888. There we go.
Yep.
Did I do that right, Mary? Okay.
It sounds right.
I mean, like I said, back of the envelope.
Yeah. No,
So-
and you have to understand too, and nothing against businesses, I'm all for private enterprise and capitalism and everything else, but those businesses have also raised their prices. So there is recoup on the other side too.
Perfect. Yeah, maybe it would help too, if this FAQ is great, and when you did math like that, that really helps too, AJ. I think like how much will this cost my business? If we can get maybe an example, you started an example, there is an example of the $200,000 of taxable value. Maybe you can show like what it is currently. Yeah, if they're paying $880 and it's gonna go return to 900, what that,
I'll send you guys a sample.
that'd be great.
So that you know. The small business, it's honestly not going to hit them, it might be 20, 40 bucks annually. So I get the concern, but the bigger concern is protecting the district.
Yeah, I think, and I don't know that there's necessarily a concern amongst us. It's more of a concern of making sure we can articulate and communicate with people.
Yeah.
Right.
I kind of feel like if the news picks this up, that this discussion has taken place and that the board was really looking out for the taxpayers' interest in trying to establish what is the real impact and then establishing that the impact is quite minor. I think our odds of getting support from the public would be very much higher.
Right, yeah. I will supply you with a sample calculation, I'm happy to do that, but.
And so my plan, and any board members welcome to join me, is I'm going to be reaching out to all the townships, pending your vote here, to meet with them at their meetings and just go through this again and answer any questions to the best of our ability on what that looks like. Reaching out to the media and other sources. We can certainly host informational nights, but I think going to the people will be more effective. So that's an open invitation to anyone listening. If you have an organization, a group, whatever it might be, that's interested in having me and Mary and anyone else come out and talk to you about this and answer any questions you have, please let us know. Because we know we've got to get out and reach the people where they are.
Okay. Anything else while we have a motion on the floor? Okay, just to review, we have a motion to adopt the operating millage proposal preamble and resolution option 1 as presented. Motion made by AJ, supported by Eric Hansen. We can do a roll call on this one, please.
Okay. Member Lawson?
Aye.
Member Hansen? Aye. Member Snow?
Aye.
Member MacArthur?
Aye.
Member Meinhardt.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Motion carries.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Member Fritz.
It's okay. Aye. Sorry, Sarah. You know.
Skipped right over you.
You know, Dave, I just can't wait to go and join you selling taxes to people. That'd be just the highlight of my winter.
Okay.
Yeah, we're from the government and we're here to help.
All right. Thank you for that, Mary. Okay, up next we have our social media resolution. A minute to pull this out here. We discussed this at our workshop. It's a motion to accept the preamble and resolution as presented to join the nationwide litigation against Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and other social media platforms. Dave, did you want to speak on this again at all, or are we?
I can. This is similar to the vape lawsuit that we signed on. I think we did that 2 years ago, but received payment last year and second round this year. Same firm is coordinating this class action suit, seeking damages, caused by social media trends, and to send a message of their targeted attacks, for lack of a better word, on our society and youth. Our role in this is to say, yes, we'd like to be a part of this, and then there is an information gathering period, and if it's similar to what we did for the vape, it's, a couple hours of work, maybe 5-6 hours of work, filling out the information based on our experience, and then they compile that into their reports and proceed. We certainly have been impacted, as we've talked about, by trends and activity on social media. We'd also talked about if we were successful in this, using that money to help, right those wrongs with information campaigns to help our students and families understand how to use social media responsibly.
I have a question. When it says other social media platforms, are we going to include X, formerly known as Twitter, in this one?
So, they did the same language with the vape manufacturers. They named Juul, and I think that was who they had originally named, and then others. Okay. And then as they went through, they added those to it. So, certainly could. I don't have that information right now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think it's, in the letter from Troon, the research confirms that social media use is associated with increased rates of depression, anxiety, eating disorders, suicide, and property damage. All definitely things that, our students here have been impacted.
Mm-hmm.
I would move to accept the preamble and resolution as presented.
I would support that.
Okay, any further conversation?
Like I said before, and Dave alluded to, just if there is monetary reward or award to this, that we certainly put it in the right place, and I assume that would come before the board to decide what to do with it? Or does it just get deposited?
Yeah, we certainly discussed it, and you wouldn't take action on it, but you give me your direction and your wishes, and we go along with that. So, like we talked about with the Altria settlement, we're going to use that money for, informational purposes.
Very good, thank you.
I don't, excuse me, I personally don't like lawsuits. They're our culture's way of making a mess of things. I agree there's money there, and everybody gets excited when there is money, but I hate a lawsuit. Whether we're a lead complaint or not, or just jumping on for the money.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree that these social networks, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, formerly known as X, have done some harm to our students in our society?
I would agree to that, but we let them.
Well, but then, then we're trying to
So,
hold
so
it
here
down.
we are throwing it, I mean, whenever you opened up Facebook, you let it. So now we're running back and saying, you heard us, so now we want your money.
Hold them accountable.
So did the lady that burned herself on hot coffee at McDonald's.
I don't think, that was a frivolous lawsuit. I don't think
Yeah,
it's
but that,
frivolous.
And I don't disagree with you at all, AJ. I think the reason I would, and I hate lawsuits as well for that reason. However, in this case, I would lend my support for the fact that several of these companies intentionally misled and specifically targeted the youth. Did they open it on their own? I would agree with that. Yes, they did. However, there was a lot of movements that they did specifically to mislead that specific age bracket, and so that's why I think that I can lend support to this.
This is why I continue to have zero social media presence. I just stay in my cave and keep quiet.
Okay, anything further while we have a motion on the floor? Okay, hearing none. Leslie, another roll call,
Okay,
please.
all right. Member Hanson?
Aye.
Member Snow? Aye. Member MacArthur?
no.
Member Fritz?
Aye.
Member Lawson?
Aye.
Member Meinhardt?
Aye. Okay. Thank you. Motion carries. Up next, new business, human resources staff update.
Good evening. We have 15 hires this month for support staff. We have Rebecca Courtman, Office Assistant, Curriculum Office for Alpena Public Schools. Jacob Nadeau, Instructional Assistant, Ella White Elementary School. Riley Hyde, Instructional Assistant, Besser Elementary School. Emily Squirkowski, Instructional Assistant, Besser Elementary School. Katie Tews, Instructional Assistant, Ella White Elementary School. Melissa Fisher Goyette, Dispatcher, Transportation Department. Vincent Thomas, Instructional Assistant, Alpena High School. Erica Graham, Custodian, Hinks and Besser Elementary School. Brittany Skews, Instructional Assistant, Wilson Elementary School. Gretchen Ross, Instructional Assistant, Lincoln Elementary School. Casey Oliver, Instructional Assistant, Alpena High School. Michael Medeiros, Bus Attendant, Transportation Department. For rehires, we have Patricia Sampierre, Elementary Principal, Sanborn Elementary School. Han Stevens, Elementary Principal, Hinks Elementary School. Stephen Genshaw, Elementary Principal, Hinks Elementary School. For resignations, we have Rena Sadler, Instructional Assistant, Alpena High School. Dawn Monahan, Bus Driver, Alpena Public Schools. Nicole Oswald, Dean of Students, Ella White Elementary School. And Treva Leclerc, Food Service Helper for Besser Elementary School. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Up next, we have a lengthy list of gifts.
Yes, the gifts include Top of Michigan Solutions donated $250 to Lincoln Elementary School for their recent reading night. The following donations were received for the Alpena High School Caput organization. DARE, $2,000. Catholic Human Services and Up North Prevention, $7,000. Wolverine State Credit Union, $500. Advanced Technologies Consultants, $500. Northland Area Federal Credit Union, $1,100. Alpena Alcona Area Credit Union, $2,500. HPC Credit Union, $2,000. And then Presque Isle Women's Club donated handmade mittens to Hinks Elementary School. Jim Park and Georgine Hildebrand donated a new Michigan flag for the Alpena High School Wildcat Den. The Alpena Community College Bookstore donated miscellaneous school supplies valued at $765 for the Alpena Early College program. Dawn Donald donated $500 to the Hinks Elementary School Library and $1,000 to the Besser Elementary School Library. Real Estate One donated books for the Besser School Library valued at $163.89, and for the Hinks School Library valued at $44. The Exchange Club of Alpena donated an 8x12 American flag valued at $195, and a 5x8 American flag valued at $85 to Thunder Bay Junior High, and a 4x6 American flag to Ella White Elementary School valued at $60. Alpena Beverage Company donated $1,000 to ACES Academy for additional needs for at-risk homeless students. Downtown Scoops donated ice cream valued at $360 to Thunder Bay Junior High for the school-wide ice cream social. Ruth and Dennis Rabo donated $30 in October and $30 in November to ACES Academy for the McKinney-Vento Gift Fund for homeless at-risk students. Amy Banny donated toys valued at $60 for use at Besser School as Paws Up incentives. I would move to accept the gifts listed above with gratitude and thank the donors in writing for the generous gifts.
Okay, we have a motion and support. Anything further? Okay, hearing none. Show of hands of those in support. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Up next, we have our second opportunity for citizens or delegations to address the board. Okay, seeing no one coming forward, we will move on. Letters and communications. I don't believe we have any.
Nothing, no, nothing.
Up next, reports and information from superintendent and staff.
So we also have a copy of the good news in there, and you see a lot of giving back from our students and staff to the community, and that is wonderful to see, especially after the list of the community giving to us. So great relationship there. And of course, the harvest dinners returned across the country schools. I know many of the board members were able to participate in that, and that was wonderful. I got to scoop ice cream last week, donated by Scoops, and tragedy of all tragedies, I didn't get to have any ice cream because I had to leave early. But I think 9 3-gallon tubs or something were distributed that day. Anyway, I wanted to touch base on strategic planning. At the December workshop, we'll be talking about that in a little bit more detail. I reached out to MASB. They do offer strategic planning services, and they've given us a quote for that and a plan, so I thought I'd roll that out. And then recently, one of our bus drivers reached out to us with his experience. Oh, he's back there, so Dan, going through strategic planning too from the medical field. And so we're going to sit down with him and kind of see what that looks like. It'd be interesting to compare the two processes. And then the board, if you wish, that's the direction we would go and choose one pathway there. So again, I was planning on rolling this out at the December workshop to just show you what MASB has to offer, and if we can have both models available by that point, that'd be great, and then we can look forward to implementing that in the new year here going forward. As I said before earlier too, now that the board has chosen the resolution or the operating millage language, I plan to get out to as many organizations, as many groups, churches, whatever it might be, individuals. I have a projector and will travel is my motto. We got to get the information out and answer questions so that people understand what this is. Again, I invite anyone who's willing to come or interested to come along with me. Maybe Mary will get suckered into more of those than she wishes because she's got all the details. But again, if you hear of anyone or you know of anyone that it'd be good to go and meet with them, please let me know, and then we'll be reaching out to organizations as well to do that between now and February when we vote. I think that's it.
Thank you. Up next, information and questions from board members.
I had, I had two for Mary during the budget, not budget, the audit. One more time, Mary, come back up. The first one was the pension and benefits. So if I understood her correctly, we are part of a larger pension program within the state. Is that correct?
Yes. Public school employees are considered governmental employees at the state level. So every school district, when we run our payroll, there's an employee portion that the employees donate towards their pension and an employer portion.
Yep.
And those are remitted to the state and placed in the trust of the Office of Retirement Services.
Okay.
Much like the state police and the court system.
Okay. And I think she said basically just do your due diligence and give your donation that you're expected.
Yes,
For that.
so on the state aid, it's the 147 section. I'd be happy to show you on the state aid, but it's all 147 section, 147C, 147.2, there's a bunch of different ones. So the state sends us well, this year it's over $4 million. And we give that back to the state as part of our pension liability. We also, like I said, when we run payroll, calculate the employer's portion on each employee according to whatever group they're in with ORS.
Okay. So it's pretty much out of our control, and if all of a sudden the state runs out of money for that, and the teachers that have retired are upset, nothing we could have done different to make sure our pension, because that seems, in the current times, that seems to be the biggest deficits of most.
It is. It's an unfunded liability.
Thank you. That was
It
what I
is.
couldn't think of. So I was just trying to think when she was given that, is there anything we should do to hedge against that in these better times?
We pay in what they tell us we have to pay.
Okay.
So every payroll, we send our money in, they look at our payroll and say, oh, this person changed, you owe us this, we gotta give you this back. It's like a constant moving target within the payroll system. And then there's also the other portions of it, that, like, they send us, this year on the state aid, it's $4 million, but we also pay that $4 million back to them. It's like moving it from the school aid fund to us and back to the state to move it to a different department at the state.
Okay. All right, one of them things that popped into my mind. The other point that she made was you're supposed to have 60 days of general operating money, and we have 89. As the head financial lady, do you feel comfortable with that 89, or would you like to see that pushed out to like 120, or?
I like thoughts of 90. It protects the district. It keeps us, we have that, our fund equity keeps us from having to borrow. Interest rates on a couple $1 million that we have to borrow would be astronomical right now.
Mhm.
So
So-
that our fund equity keeps us from borrowing. I know that they say 60 under GADSB, which is Governmental Accounting Standards Boards, but MSBO, which is the Michigan School Business Officials, suggests 90.
Okay, so you're comfortable where we're at?
I'm very comfortable where we're at right now.
Okay.
You know, it's a hedge against what might be coming down the road. You know,
Yeah, when she threw that out there, I just thought I'd ask you about that, whether you were happy. Okay, that's all.
thank you.
Thanks, AJ. I guess I would like to just take a moment and point out on our school board's right-hand side, we have a group of our very appreciated bus drivers here tonight. So just to thank them for being here and thank you for all your hard work. So. And with that, kind of wonder if we have an update on our bus driver situation, hiring. I know one of our emails said that there were some relief drivers in the works and that those were not able to complete the process. And
Yeah, so we talked about this today. We don't have anyone currently in the hopper. Correct. Yeah. We discussed about, again, this is sort of the reality we're in, where people are applying for jobs, not just at the bus driver position, but many, and they'll get to a certain point in the process and we'll stop hearing from them. Or they don't want to go into the system and complete the final stages that we need in order to do, to hire them on. But one of the big things too is, we are, and Mary and Samantha can speak to, there are certain things in your background check that prohibit us from hiring you. Certainly a DUI is going to preclude you from being a bus driver, and yet we have people with DUIs applying for that position. We have people that haven't disclosed crimes in their background, and we get to the end of the process and do our final checks, and it comes up, and you're then faced with, they didn't disclose it up front. It may or may not be something that we're prohibited from hiring them, but if they haven't disclosed it and it's something that is something we can work with, do we necessarily want to hire someone who has not been honest with us in the application process? So we've got challenges, as pretty much every employer does. We've got shortages, we've got all sorts of issues. We are working on it, and unfortunately the latest round of candidates that we had, I think all of them fell through.
do you mind just coming up?
Come on up.
We're on YouTube, so that way people can hear what great stuff you have to say.
I know, having been a bus driver and hired and passed all the criteria, but in this day and age, and when was the last time the hiring criteria was updated? I know there's things that you couldn't possibly hire somebody for, but then if you had a DUI when you were 18 and now you're 40, nothing in between, should that preclude you from being a bus driver?
Yeah, you want to address that? I mean,
Samantha, I'm sorry.
Come on up.
I will get,
we'll share.
I'll get messages that people
Yeah.
couldn't hear, so thank you.
So we look at a lot of different things. We don't just exclude you if you have a DUI. We look at how long it's been, the severity. So if every 3 years this person's getting a DUI, that's going to be something we're probably going to say no to. If it's something where, it's been 10 years since they've had a DUI, again, that's something that we would definitely consider. But if it's been something where you've had a DUI in the last 6 months or something like that, we would also, have to weigh that very heavily.
Right, okay, thank you. I know it's a struggle to find people, and I think we need to keep it out there. We had a little hiring blitz, was it about 2 months ago? And it produced some people coming in, but again, they weren't hired, so
yeah.
we need help.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would also like to make a point. The school code, which is the state regulations and laws for Michigan schools, disallows hiring of certain misdemeanors and certain felonies. So if someone did have a DUI 10, 15 years ago, they could go back to the court and possibly have it expunged. But unless they do that, our hands are tied.
Thank you. It's helpful. Thanks. I know it was a little out of board policy there to people come up, but I think it was valuable to the conversation. So anything further from the board? Oh, microphone, please.
Sorry. I guess it's a question. When Dave, when he goes out on his visits with people, he's going to do that under, is it probably paragraph 2? I'm looking at the summary of campaign finance law on the back of the, yeah. So paragraph 2, which allows the expression of views by an elected or appointed public official who has policy-making responsibilities, but limited in the use of public resources to disseminate that view. So we're not going to pay him or give him a school vehicle to go drive around and do that.
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to double check. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm only providing information, you know.
Yeah, can't say how to vote, just
Not,
provide
yeah.
information. Yeah, good stuff on that back page for all of us, the permissible and impermissible. I guess I have one more question, just if we had an update on the staff survey.
Oh, yeah, Riemann, so I have an appointment with them. I think it's next Thursday. Well, that's
fine.
not helpful. So yes, we have agreed with Riemann to do this engagement survey of staff, and so they have a kickoff meeting to plan the administration of the survey. And from that meeting, and I think it's either next Thursday or something, it's in the either, yeah, it must be next week. Anyway, within that, it's a very quick turnaround once we decide what it looks like. They can administer it, probably put it out there for 2 weeks, might work well right up to the Christmas break. And then they would come back and work with the board and the district to go through the results. So, yep.
Thank you. Has there been conversation, is the survey going out to just current staff? Would it be people who maybe resigned in the past or resigned, I guess, in the past 6 weeks or something to kind of get their feedback as well, or?
Yeah, so we can cast as wide a net
Okay.
or as narrow as we want. We would want to cast it as wide as possible. So.
Great. Anything further? Okay. With that, we will move on. We're headed into a motion. We need a motion to move into a closed session to discuss personnel. And for those who are waiting, it does look like we'll be considering a personnel matter when we return to open session. So we'll need a motion to move into a closed session, please.
Support.
Personnel, do we need a roll call on personnel?
We need this
Yep.
as Section
Okay.
H, yeah. So Member Snow. Member MacArthur. Member Fritz.
Aye.
Member Lawson.
Aye.
Member Hanson.
Aye.
And Member Meinhardt.
Aye. Okay, we'll be headed into the media center, I believe.
We'll be in the library, yeah.
Library.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let me know when we're ready to go. Okay, sounds like we're ready. All right, we have returned to open session, and we have a motion that, Leslie, would you mind reading?
Okay, we will be approving the leave of absence request from the requesting employee to return to work no sooner than January 8th, 2024, pending reevaluation and clearance from both diagnosing providers.
Okay, thank you. We need a motion and support for this, please.
So moved.
Okay, Eric and AJ, thank you. Any further conversation? Okay, hearing none, just motion, show of hands, all in favor? Okay, passes
Okay.
unanimously. All right, thank you. Advanced planning, there's a lengthy list of all the fun December activities happening throughout all the schools. Noting, let's see, where our workshop, oh goodness, where's our workshop at? There.
The 11th.
Oh, yeah, the 11th, December
it'll
11th,
be
our
quick.
workshop at the board office, and then our regular board meeting, December 18th, at Lincoln.
Yep.
And with that, we can adjourn. Thank you.